team says praise all round in North Korea after its latest test of an intercontinental ballistic missile. State media reports leader Kim Jong-un personally guided the launch of the Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile on Wednesday, which flew for 74 minutes before crashing down in the waters near Japan. The longest flight ever carried out by this ICBM. It was a solid fuel missile. It's been called the North's most powerful nuclear weapon.
A menacing milestone for North Korea's missile program. Pyongyang's latest ICBM launch breaking its own record for the longest ever missile flight. A staggering 74 minutes, hurtling high above the Earth at supersonic speed, hitting 6,000 kilometers before splashing down in the sea. The massive missile's potential striking range, the entire U.S. mainland and most of the world. Pyongyang's most provocative launch in months, coinciding with this NATO summit in Lithuania, quickly condemned by Japan as an unacceptable threat to regional stability. South Korea's military ready to overwhelmingly respond. The ICBM, a crown jewel in leader Kim Jong-un's nuclear arsenal, protecting the power, fortune, and future of the ruling Kim family. His young daughter, Kim Joo-ae, often appearing alongside her dad. Barely 10 years old, the rising star of a state propaganda campaign, carefully crafted by Kim's younger sister, the mastermind of the Kim family brand. The leader's loyal confidant, trusted advisor, and perhaps the most powerful woman in North Korea. The silent sister, now a loud voice of defiance, issuing fiery statements on state media, often laced with crude language. This week, she threatened to shoot down U.S. spy planes, accusing them without evidence of entering North Korean territory, warning in case of repeated illegal intrusions, the U.S. forces will experience a very critical flight.
It was once deemed unbeatable. American naval ships have been the strongest, the greatest, and also the heaviest for many decades. But are the golden days of the American Navy being challenged? The American naval ships are not only facing competition in terms of technology, but are also getting actively outnumbered by China. A recently leaked U.S. naval briefing slide has called attention to this very worrisome gap. And not only is China's navy already the world's largest, its humble numerical lead over the U.S. is getting wider. So much so that the Navy has warned that American shipyards cannot keep up. The data that has been compiled by the Office of the Naval Intelligence has warned of a growing gap in fleet sizes. And also, the focus has been on Chinese shipbuilders. The Beijing's shipmakers are over 200 times more capable of producing surface warships and submarines in comparison with that of Washington. But that is not all. There's also a glaring template in the slide. It is the depiction of China and the U.S. relative shipbuilding capacity in terms of gross tonnage. The graphic further shows that China's shipyards have a capacity of about 23 million tons, while the U.S. lags behind at 100,000 tons. The U.S. shipbuilding capacity has been declining for a few decades now. It has shrunk steadily since the end of the Cold War. Now, for years, the U.S. Navy has been raising alarm over the widening gap in shipbuilding capacity as well as the size of the fleet. The U.S. Naval Secretary Carlos Del Toro has said that China has got 13 shipyards. In some cases, their shipyards have more capacity. One shipyard has more capacity than all of the American shipyards combined, and that presents a real threat.
French President Emmanuel Macron has dismissed NATO's plans of having an outpost in Japan, insisting that such geographical expansion would risk shifting the alliance commitments too far from its original focus on North Atlantic areas. Earlier, China had also echoed Macron's sentiment, saying majority of Asian countries oppose the emergence of the military blocs in the region, and NATO's outreach in Asia is not welcome. Now, according to reports, NATO had plans to open its liaison office in Tokyo, but on the second and final day of NATO's 2023 summit in Lithuania, France blocked the move, saying that NATO should focus on its role of protecting the Euro-Atlantic area instead. During the summit, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg met the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, saying opening the liaison office remains on the table. Beijing, on the other hand, has warned against a further expansion of NATO presence in the Asia-Pacific region, calling it a detrimental move against regional peace and stability. According to the spokesperson for Chinese Foreign Ministry, majority of Asian countries are against the emergence of military blocs in the region, as it will not only interfere in the regional affairs but also incite bloc confrontations. NATO officials have been discussing plans of opening a liaison office in Japan for months now. The post is to represent the allies' concrete presence in the region at a time of growing tension between the West and China. But French President Emmanuel Macron's rejection of the same highlights major differences of opinion between the Western allies.
It's day 2 of the NATO summit in Lithuania. Let me show you a picture that sums up the takeaways so far. Look at this. It was clicked during the family photo after the roundtable. The NATO leaders are talking and having a good laugh. The Ukrainian leader is all alone. This should be a reality check for Ukraine. They were led on and into a war, only to be left out of NATO. Today will be another day of frustration for them. Ukraine wants to be a member, and it wants it now, but NATO says you're not ready. And this is how it played out. First came the roundtable. NATO leaders arrived, clicked pictures, and got down to business. Their agenda had 3 things: Ukraine, Russia, and China. In the end came the joint statement, and with it, Ukraine's hopes were dashed. Let me quote what it says. We will be in a position to extend an invitation to Ukraine to join the alliance when allies agree and conditions are met. And what are these conditions? The statement doesn't say, but NATO leaders have raised multiple issues, like ending the war, reforming government agencies, cracking down on corruption. These are the conditions. NATO says do all of this and you can be a member. But this is a setback for Ukraine. A membership after 10 years doesn't help. Neither do vague commitments. If NATO is half-hearted, Zelensky is in trouble, and Russia knows this. Their leaders are building more pressure on NATO. Look at what their former president, Dmitry Medvedev, said. I'm quoting again. The completely crazy West could not come up with anything else. In fact, it's a dead end. World War III is getting closer. This is a former Russian president and a Putin confidant. Their foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, has also given a statement. He says the war will end when NATO stops using Ukraine to defeat Russia. Now, both these men are close to Putin. Their statements sum up the Russian mentality. A, they're not backing down. And B, if the West doesn't stop supporting Ukraine, things could get out of hand. The fighting could spill over. More countries could get dragged in. And as Medvedev said, there could be World War III.